Just messing around with background to get going usually helps me kind of figure out how I want things to lay out. I get to get fancy with this one because it's not for any real use. Let's see. So I'm just trying to give it some form before I start actually playing around with data, to give me some ideas as to how to get going. Just box it out a little bit. Let's see here. All right. Got to get some transparency on this because why not? Usually wouldn't do backgrounds with images because it can be distracting, but I'm gonna have fun with this one. Yeah, I don't mess with grid lines and find them distracting for some reason. Alright, let's see. Here's a trick. So I group them, resize it to make it fit perfectly. I'll keep my margins and spacing. And then I ungroup them. I can bring this guy up and eyeball these corners a little bit. I've been pushing layouts for a long time now. I think, like I have a blog post about this, but I like the idea that if you start in Power BI and you have an idea of like a single visual, and you build the layout around that visual. So say I had like a map. I know I want to put a map right here and fill this whole space with it. And then you build out shapes around it and give you really good ideas as to like what to do next with it. So like a couple KPIs, I'm going to put a table here probably, something over time over here, fancy navigation stuff over here. But like I don't quite know what this is going to look like here, but I know I want a map, so I'm going to guarantee build around that piece. Okay, so I think this is good enough to get going with the menu piece, but so I'm gonna duplicate it, and I'm gonna build on top here what I want the flyout to look like. Because so when I take it into desktop, what I'll do is actually make an image flyout when you click that button. So bear with me here. And some of this stuff's gonna look kind of grainy and iffy, but I use the game itself as the inspiration for some of the branding, you could say. It's like this website. It's like these blues and the idea of like hover on, fly out. I can't do the hover, but I can do the color change. I can't quite do the lines the way they have it either, but I could try to get it close on that. Okay. And I'm actually going to change this fill. I don't like the color pattern the way it is. Yeah, that'll work. And then I'm going to make it fancy. Just going to bring this logo in. Whoop, don't want to do that. And I don't really like the way the contrast looks on that. It's kind of rough. So I'm going to lighten this guy up to make up for it a little bit. And maybe. Let's see, what's this actually look good against? Anything? Not that. Not really anything. Yeah, fair enough. I'll probably swap it out later on because I'm not a huge fan of it, but it'll at least fill me some space. I like rounded corners, but very subtle. So like in this case, is probably as far as I'd ever round them. I also like to do a lot of shadows, even though I didn't do it yet here. I probably should, because if I give it a little bit of depth, I like to generate a little bit of depth out of the report. Let's see. There we go. So now it looks like it's kind of sitting up on top rather than flat, which I really like. But yeah, I'm not partial to either one. I play between the two. And I think the important part is don't mix them too much. So I wouldn't want to do like flat here across these three. Whoops. And then round down below can kind of get weird. But occasionally we'll do rounded on the top and flat on the bottom as well. So bring that back a little bit. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna go desktop here. And I'm gonna start bringing these backgrounds in. So start with this one, just grab all the elements, give it a save as picture, BG1, back to desktop, paint roller, background, add the image, BG1, make it fit, and get rid of the transparency. Alright, so that seemed to translate across pretty well. Occasionally it'll be slightly off. I was playing around with the idea of like this flat or this pattern fill on this bar, and it just looked weird when I brought it in. Probably because it's not like Adobe Illustrator quality, but it's all good. Okay, so now I want to bring in, I'm going to build out a navigation panel over here. So the end users for this thing are going to be people who don't know Power BI. Like a couple of them have seen a little bit of it, but mostly they're used to web interfaces. So I'm going to try to build it out like an app or like any type of web page that they'd be familiar with. So 3 lines, give it a click, they'll know that just based on looking on it. But the first thing I'm going to do with that is add a button that sits on top of those 3 lines. And I'm going to add, let's see here, let me show you this real quick. Let me look at the chat real quick. shouldn't have any. Does the audio still have issues? Okay, let me know. And again, I'm no pro at this. This is first time ever trying anything like this, so let's see. So I'm gonna size this button up real well. Oh, that's what I was just gonna say. So this is called Pixie. I love this thing. So essentially it'll pick up the color anywhere you are. And if you do Control-Alt-C, then it copies the hex. So if I were to go like, let me get a text box here, Control-C on like this blue, copies the hex in there. Like this blue. Love that tool. I use it all the time. Okay, so essentially what I wanted to do with this Pixie here, why I brought it over here to show you, is I want to make this button match this color, but with transparency to kind of dull out that white, so when you hover on it, it'll give it the effect of like being clickable. So I'm going to copy that color. I'm going to go to the button that I put on top there. I'm going to say I want to fill, and I'm going to color match. And you'll see now it dulled it out, but it didn't it doesn't stand out. You can't see the shape of it. It could be massive and you can't even tell because it blends right in with the color. So what I'm going to do now is do an effect on hover to be 100% transparent. So now when you hover, you get that little clickable feel to it. So that's step one there. Now I'm going to go get my my pop-out menu. So that's back to PowerPoint. And I'm just going to bring these two elements. I'll probably change it later, but a lot of times when I get going, I'll just toss some stuff together to start like filling out the concept and then change my mind later if I haven't, if I end up not liking it. I'll call this nav flyout. And actually, I might have to adjust this a little bit. Let's see. Because it's important that it looks like it's cohesive with it and it's not sitting on its own over here. And I think based on what I've done with this thing, it's probably going to look like it's sitting on its own, so I might want to go modify that. So I'm going to go insert image, move Pixie out of the way. I'll put that right there. Nav flyout. And I'll fill the space right there. And again, like, yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to like this, but it's a lot of trial and error. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. Okay. So it's not terrible. It kind of lines up, but it's not ideal. Let's zoom in a little bit here. It's never going to line up top to bottom, which is one of the reasons I like to try to color this band right here to make it feel like it's coming out of it, and it doesn't necessarily have to fill that space. Hey Alex, welcome to the show. But I'm going to leave it for now because it seems to be lining up actually pretty well. The top's pretty close on that little line. It's very iffy, but all good. So the next thing I'm going to want to do here is, and thank you, it's not about the cell, whoever that happens to be. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to build out this navigation menu, and one of the main reasons I like doing this thing in this way, like rather than putting like maybe 3 buttons up here for the 3 pages, in this case I have 3 pages that I've planned, but it could change. And if you do it through this nav menu way, you could actually set it up to take on many more buttons. So like when I was working on the Cloud9 project, for example, we started with 3. We ended up with 6 pages, but we had the nav bar built in, so we just had to reposition buttons and we were good to go. We didn't have to redesign anything, which is awesome. I also like it better than, not necessarily better than pages being on the left side, but we know like not everybody's on New Look, so I want a consistent report design so that end users, like, no matter what, they know where that tab's going to be, regardless of if the person demoing it to them had New Look or not. Also, when I started doing this method, you were not actually able at that time to collapse the page nav on the left side in New Look. Okay. Okay, so I got my big shape. I'm going to build some buttons in. So first one here, and it's going to be a little sloppy at first, but that's good. Actually, I'll just format one first. So on these guys, if you do one right and get the proper interaction and then copy paste it out, it's much easier. Because what I'm going to do is build like 2 variations. I want one that's like, this is the page you're on now, and I want the others to look like you can navigate to these pages. So I'm going to say this is event planner, and then we will color that up a little bit, make it bigger. Let's go with that. Okay. And then on this one, I don't want it to have any hover effect because I want you to know you're on it. So here, event planner. I'm going to call this one, let's see, what did I want to call it? Took some notes. Let's do event stats, like that. And then this one I'm going to make it actually feel interactive. So I'll do like maybe on hover, give me, and I'm going to play with these colors too. I didn't bring in any theme or anything yet, but that'll work just to kind of make it feel clickable. And then the third one I'm going to build here is going to be called player. Let's just call it player analysis, something like that. Okay. But you see it's acting up because I changed it to hover. So button formatting is kind of weird. If you say you have a button like this and you change it while it's on default state, so I said test, for example, if you've swapped it and changed something on hover before, it won't, or it'll keep what you had on hover before. But if I do like new button, at least I think this is how this works, if I remember right. I do text and say test. Okay, and then I go, let's see, on hover automatically inherits the test, but it doesn't always, let's see, let me see if I can do this right. Test 2 on hover, like that, and then if I go back to default and say test 3, it stops respecting it. So if you change the default first and then go change your hovers, you won't have an issue where you have to go back between the two. Oh, that's a good question, Alex. Because custom is great if you know how to handle it, but a lot of people don't know how to handle it, and they'll end up putting crazy images in the background like that, or images that have terrible contrast like that one. So okay. Anyhow, I'm going to space these out a little bit. Like that. And I also like to do all of my button formatting and like spacing and things before I assign any bookmarks or page tabs or anything to them, because then if you hold Control click, you'll select all instead of making it do that action. Okay, so now I've got my flyout. I'll probably bring in some more stuff down the line, but what's cool about this is I can go to my selection pane and group these objects together. So I'm going to say, and I should rename them, but I'm not going to because I'm being lazy on it. I'm going to grab all 4 of them, right click, and group. So now the key is, I'm going to say this is nav flyout. So the key here now is when we make the bookmark, because we grouped it, all we have to do is hide it as a group and not hide it as a group. And actually, I don't like this. There's something I need to change. These guys, this one needs to be more apparent that it's selected already. So I'm going to go here and just give it a color or something. Let's do Pixie on this color. I'll modify that later. I don't like it, but hey, Phil. And Alex, I don't like grid lines in desktop because they look like that, and really the grid line is each dot, but having them spaced out like that like gives me a panic attack for some reason. Actually, let's do this. Let's see. I don't like that contrast. Just eyeballing it looks kind of funky. Let's do this one for hover. Still don't like it that much, but that's all right. Okay, so now, anywho, so I have these guys grouped, and when we go to like start building bookmarks, like grouping selections, like changed my life, honestly. It's about a year old now, and I was working on the Office 365, or I guess it's Microsoft 365 usage analytics template app, and when I started it, you couldn't group, and then group became preview, and like I would have never suggested to anybody go do these bookmarks without grouping. I was doing them anyways, but it's not like scalable, I'd say, because it's incredibly painful, and you'd like have to add things for separation in your selection pane just to make it feel like it was separate, even though it wasn't. But now with grouping, they're much easier to build, maintain, and like especially update. So I'm going to do my bookmark real quick. So I have it open. I'm going to select it here. Go bookmarks pane, add a new one to selected visuals, meaning just that group. And I'm going to turn data off because in this case it wouldn't matter because there's no filters or anything in that selected group, but I want it to I guess I just get in the habit of turning off if it's not necessary. Okay, so I'm going to call this one my nav flyout. And then I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm going to shut the eye, click it, add a new one, selected visuals, data off, nav close. Okay, so now if I click nav flyout, it should work, but I think there was a bug recently. We'll see if it works. Okay, good. We had a bug recently where on new bookmarks for grouped visuals like that, you had to update it after you did it, otherwise it wouldn't take it the first time. But I think I was the only person doing this type of silly stuff, so. Okay, so now we got the group. And what's cool now is I can come back. This is the power of the groups. If I come back over here, for example, in PowerPoint, I'm like, I don't want this. That's terrible. Let's do I'm gonna do something silly. So I like to take a lot of branding off of like websites, for example. And this one is for a game, so there's a ton of like icons and stuff available. So if I go look up some item that's like super rare, I'm gonna copy that image. I'm just gonna put a little like silly navigational component thing up here. Let's see. So this club in the game is like super rare and expensive. Come on, line those two up like that. And then I'm going to toss some text in there instead because I didn't like that photo. Let's say navigation. And then get consistent on font. Make it white. Do something with this. It's fun to work with reports like this where you can kind of do whatever you want. Okay, so now I have a new image essentially. So I got those 4 elements. I'm going to save as a picture. Call that nav. I'll just override the nav flyout. But what's cool is when we come back to desktop, we can, let's see here. Okay, so we're back in desktop. What's cool now is I can bring in my new image. Okay, insert image, nav flyout like that, and there it is. But I want to swap them out, so I'm gonna click this. I'm gonna delete the image that's there, slide this one into the group in its place, and then put it in its positioning here, like that. And guess what? We don't even have to redo the bookmark because we're hiding and unhiding the group rather than the individual items. So previous to grouping, you would have had to completely redo that bookmark from scratch, but since we're able to group it, we could just swap things in and out. Like if we have a new section, I'm going to say I want a new button. Actually, we're going to keep formatting proper. We're going to copy this guy, put it here and call it like, I'm going to put resources or something. I want to do some stuff to kind of consolidate links people go to frequently. Resources, like that. Bring it down a little bit, and then do my thing here when it comes to alignment. And then I see I need a hover action here because I modified sources. Make sure I'm pressed. This is what I want to. Okay. So now, again, all I have to do is slide this into the group, and now it's done. And now if I tie this fancy little button here to the action of bookmark, flyout, and then I'm going to give it an action. I'm going to say click for navigation. I really like being able to customize that tooltip. If you say if you hover and it says click for link, then like that doesn't mean anything, and most people be confused by it. But now it says click for navigation, so if I give it a click, it pops out, and then we can navigate from there. I still don't like that color there, so I'm gonna have to figure something else out with that. Let's do. I want to steal from that logo just because it's easy. Yeah, let's do this. I'm okay with that blue, although it's not great. Let's do font color, or on hover actually is what I want. Like that. Format paint. It didn't take the format paint because I took the format painter on the whole thing instead of the, or on the whole group instead of the actual button. There we go. And then I'm actually going to do something a little bit different here. I think rather than just doing color, I'm going to try to make it a little bit more fancy. I'm going to go try to give it like a tab type feel to it. So let's go right there. And then I'm going to change the fill on this one to match the background here. So I'm going to go like that. Give it 0% transparency to kind of make it feel like it's popping out of there a little bit. And on these guys, I'm going to do the same thing but on hover. So I'm going to say fill on default is 100%, fill on hover 0%, and that color. So now we get this kind of look and feel. It looks like this one might need to go over it a smidgen. Okay. Let's see what I want to do with this next. We can make it even fancier if we want to, and make it do stuff like when you hover, it'll shift left like that. Don't know if I like it in this case. Let's try right. I don't like that so much. But if I give it some padding, it'll probably look alright. It's like padding enough to make it shift, but not shift like crazy amount. There we go. Something like that. Go do that. Alex, do you mean this part right here? And this one doesn't get as much padding because it ends up running off. Doesn't really give it the same effect because it's already like filling it pretty good. Yeah, I probably will actually go change that to match this color so it'll feel like it runs straight out. That's a good call though, because I originally started doing it, I think you're on when I was showing it a minute ago, but started doing it based off of the kind of the formatting they have here. And I wanted to get that like lined effect there, but then that doesn't really play so well with the idea of making it feel like it flies out. So I'll go revisit that one probably after I get through this piece. Let's see. Give that one a format paint here. And then we're going to paint back up because we modified slightly. It doesn't have the same effect though because, okay, so what we're going to do now, let's see how this works. This might look stupid, but we'll move them over. It's all trial and error at this point. So now it has a more dramatic effect, and you can clearly see where you're at with that one. And I think with the selected one, I'll move it over a little bit to the right. We'll go like right side, and then add padding back. Something like that. Then when you hover through, it'll move it across. Yeah, bold's good too. I think color change is good, and it's hard to actually see it in desktop because you get all the lines around it too. So there's a lot of screen flicker. So a lot of times what I'll do is I'll build what I think looks good, and then I'll publish it, and then go play with it in the service real quick and see what it looks like at that point. Okay, so I'm gonna save that real quick. Still don't know if I like that though. Like, it's okay, but it's not great. And then Alex, I think this is a good time to come back here and get rid of this, because I agree with you that that line doesn't quite look right anymore. So I just want to bring that over for color match purposes, and then I will take this and go solid fill, eyedrop on that. And this is going to look a lot cleaner when I bring it over. BG1. Okay. Okay. New background. There we go. So when you fly it out, should be, if I place it appropriately, be seamless. Still not a fan of that though. I'm gonna have to figure something else out. I don't like it. Okay. The other thing I didn't do here too, there's actually two things. One thing is I need to do something about this problem. So if I click here as a user they don't get the group, they click the actual object, and then you get stuck in this situation where the object is over the buttons and it flickers and it's hard to get to, and they don't know you have to click blank space to get there. There's a few ways to protect against that. I know Guy in a Cube just did a video on one of them, but I like to do this one. Miguel taught me this one. If I do a new bookmark and I turn everything off, so turn off data, turn off display, turn off current page, it grays it out. And I can call this one, I think Miguel likes to call it safe click. If I can spell. And if I assign this bookmark to this shape, that shape will no longer be clickable. It won't come to the top. So I turn off the header, because number one tip to anybody who's starting off with Power BI, turn off the headers unless you want people to actually use them. Let's say bookmark, safe click. The tooltip is kind of a pain because you have to put something, you can't leave it blank because it'll say like click here to follow link. So I'll just give it like a dot or something really minimal. So then what that does is makes it so when somebody clicks here in the service, it won't go on top and overwrite everything. Or if somebody clicked like right here and missed the button, it would do like it would go on top of it normally, and this would take care of that. And the other thing I want to do here is I want to build in a way to close it, because I haven't built anything yet that would close it down. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to narrow this a little bit because it doesn't really need that much width. Shift it down. Sort of shift it down. Why is it jumping so much? I think it's because it's a group. It wants to move more than... Okay, 32 is good. Okay, now I need to build something to close this. And if you go to like any website, so if I go to, I don't know, let me find, okay, here we go. I'll just show you this. Stream within a stream within a stream. But if you go to like the UI here, if you click expand and then you click the same spot, it'll open close. I like to give that kind of effect. But then also build upon it a little bit more too. So I got my nav fly out, but one more thing I need to bring into it is you can do either a big clear shape or a big clear button. And I'll put it underneath this group. So I can see I need to resize this too. I shouldn't have narrowed it. I narrowed the group instead of the actual thing. I'll go like right there. I said this wouldn't be clean. And the cleanup can come later on this thing. Okay. So I'm gonna insert a big button. Big blank button. I'm gonna fill the whole page with it, like that. And I turn off everything on it. And then I'm gonna give it the action of nav close. I'm gonna say click anywhere to continue. And then what I'm going to do is stick that on the bottom of the group. So that what that essentially does is gives you the ability to click anywhere to close it. So I click to open, I can click the same spot again and it'll close it because that button is underneath the entire thing. Or you can see here, click anywhere to continue and then you just get out of it. So the idea is to make it hard for the end user to get lost. Okay, so that's good for nav. Later on I'll add those pieces, but what's cool though is if we were to go new tab, all we have to do is bring over the one element and make just two new quick bookmarks that are based on the group. So it's not a ton of work of replication, but it's a little bit. Okay, I still don't like that, but it's probably going to bother me until I fix it, so maybe I'll fix it now. And just center all of these or something, I don't know. Something about them is just bothering me. And this might seem picky, but alright, I'm going to get rid of that dancy effect. I don't like it. It's okay when it's centered to right. It's just it moves too much if you do it the other way. And actually I'm going to do for let's see, on hover, we're going to get rid of that. We're going to go back and just change it, and then I'm going to go with I'm going to try slight text size increase or something like that. Yeah, I don't think it's necessary. It's too much. Do that. Okay. That's fair enough, I think, for that. Okay, cool. Close it down. Okay, so now I want to start actually building something into here. I mentioned earlier something about a map as being the anchor visual that I wanted to put down here. So I'm going to start with that. I don't know what it's going to look like. It probably won't be great, especially with the transparency. It's going to override some of that because you can't make a map transparent. I'll go player. Let's see. Count a character there, and then we want to do state. It's just simple, and the idea with this piece was to get time, like figure out where people are time zone wise to help with organizing like event times and that kind of thing. Okay. So I'm not going to get too fancy on this thing, but I'm going to lighten it up, make it feel like it's part of the report and not just a separate messy thing. And then I'll change my bubble color or something. Let's see. I had some colors that I had planned on using, but I haven't really looked at them yet. I was looking at, like, I try to find, I don't know, I suck at colors, so I try to find other people's examples of really like well blended colors. Miguel is completely different. He's like a boss when it comes to color. But I'll just look for things that work together in other examples. So in this case, I was grabbing some of these ones, and I think these 4 will work for me, even though the blue is a little bit different. So I'll try that out, see how it goes. So let's go here, and then I'm going to use Pixie on my other screen over here to grab this color. I've looked at like Adobe's colors. There's one they have. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I think it was Adobe Color Picker, and like it doesn't. I think there's the ability to like bring a color in and let it like build upon it. But the reason I was using it was just for like inspirational ideas. So it's this site. And it gives you like gradients that go with it depending on where you pick and things like that. And then I like to look at, like here we explore, gives you a bunch of different like color combinations that work together. But usually I'll anchor around a brand and build out from there. Okay, so I'm gonna build out a table. I'll probably try to fill this whole thing in at some rough level, and then I'm gonna call it because I've had a long day already. But now we have a map that shows kind of where people are located, and I'll probably build a page tooltip on this one. So when you hover, it would give you the list of people like and where they're located, or you hover on the dot and it would tell you who it is, which would be kind of cool. And then actually we need to go distinct character count on this one. There we go. And then I tend to mix up what I do with titles. So sometimes I'll use the title of the visual, sometimes I'll bring in text separately. It kind of depends on placement. So if I want to do, let's see, characters by location, something like this. I haven't even thought about font shape or fonts or colors for titles yet. If I go right side here, maybe try to match this blue on the titles because it has pretty decent contrast at sight. Make it a little bit bigger. I'll probably go 12 on titles is pretty common. And then I'm gonna look at these other map styles and see if the grayscale looks a little bit better, which I think it kind of does. Let's see what else we got. Probably don't want that one though. No. That one's okay. That one's probably better. And no. I'll stick to that for now. Okay. Now the key for this page is we're going to bring in a table that shows like each character's name and what items that they want, or it's going to be like each item and what characters want that item, for example. So we'll go, let's see, character name. Oh, come on. Why are you not just dropping? Okay, whatever. We'll go matrix, character name is a row. Let's see, what do we want to do here? It sounds like there's kids outside the window here. What do we want? We want, let me see what these values look like. I don't remember at this point. Nope, looks like nothing. Oh, okay. I'll probably have to mess with data a little bit in the near future here. Oh man. Let's see. Actually, I already built this table. I can go pull it out of here. So I came in earlier and I was trying to mess around and get an idea of what was in here. So I'm going to go grab that table, bring it over here, get rid of that. And table formatting by default is terrible. Like just what we put out with the theme is not that great. So I like to immediately turn the style off, and then I'll build back up from there to what I want it to be like, and then land it once for the report and use the same thing consistently throughout after that. So I'm going to go grid. First thing I almost always do is add some row padding and increase the font size. So text size on table formatting is weird. If you do it in grid before you touch the formatting of the other pieces, it'll apply to everything. But if I go change column headers now and then change it in grid, it won't change the column headers anymore. So I'm going to go like here. And then I'm going to stagger this thing a little bit and fill the space in. But I got a little something special I want to do with this one, so I'm going to allow a little space. And then I'm going to start coloring this thing a little bit. Let's see. I think I kind of want to leave it transparent, but I got to make these pop a little more if I'm going to have that underlying piece. So I'm going to go with, let's go column headers are that blue that we liked from earlier, but I'm going to make them a little bigger or something. One second. Okay. I had to go shut the window because kids are running around outside. Okay, anywho. So I want to make this pop a little bit more, and I honestly don't like the blue lettering, so rather than that, I'm going to darken the column header and use the blue as the background, and then I'm going to bring in white font. And then I'm going to shrink that down a little bit. Now I want to format my values. Actually, row headers first. So I'll do row header. I'll do black. I don't like doing the pure black. It's like almost too vivid, so I do one 10% lighter usually. And then let's see, what do we want to do next? I want to step it a little bit more. Just to kind of get some separation for it. And then I'm gonna, let's see here, what do I want to do? So there's two types of events that we're tracking stuff for. There's this one, which is called Omen, but then there's another one that's I'm gonna pull a separate table for it, and I'm actually gonna tab between the two, because the idea is you don't do them both on the same day, they're staggered anyways, so if you're going to do an Omen, you could come in here and see which one to prioritize based on the needs of people. Same thing for the other one, but they're completely separate, so you don't need to see them at the same time at all. So to get that tab effect, I'm actually going to go back to my background. I'm going to go like this. Okay. And I'm going to shrink this down a little bit here. And then this is where it's going to get kind of weird. I'm going to copy that and paste it. I'm going to build like this little tab looking thing here. I'm going to round it off. And let's see, bring this to the front. I hate when I do that in PowerPoint. And now I'm going to use PowerPoint here in shape format to merge these shapes together. So I did that union there. And that'll give that like tab feel to it. Like that. Although I don't know if I like it quite yet. I might have to modify it a little bit. Let me think here. What do I want to do with this? No. I keep clicking that over here. I always click down here by accident. What do I want to do? So it's gonna be a 2-button switch here, but I want to make sure you can tell which button you're on. Yeah, this will be fine for now. I can switch it if I don't like it. Save as picture. PG1. Go to Power BI. Okay. And then I'm going to bring in my new background. And I'm constantly modifying background as I go through any report build. Okay, so I'm going to drag this up like this. I'll give it space, never mind. I was thinking if I can do it like here and put the tabs to override on the header, it could be kind of cool, but I don't know if I'm going to like it, so I'm going to give it some space to start. But essentially what I want to do is do a couple of buttons here. We'll do one like right here, and we'll call this one Omen. Will probably work just fine. Yeah, it's not giving the you know what I need to do? I don't like that. I'm gonna come back over here. I'm gonna go undo a little bit. I think rather than making this one the same color and building it in like that, which you can do it, it works pretty well if you do it perfectly. But I think what I'm gonna do is try to make it sit underneath without looking like, oh come on. This is gonna be hard kinda, because I want to lighten it up. I want to do like, I want to do that, but I don't want to be able to see it through there. But this is transparent to cover for there, so I might have to modify it a little bit. So probably do something like this. This is going to be way more work than it should be. Oh, come on. This This is silly, but I'm going to do it anyways. Take the shadow off of this thing. Come on. Every time I go over here, it like wants to move to that next page. I don't want to do that. I'm probably just going to arrow it up. You could pull it up a little bit like that. That'll work, actually. Oh my god. I apologize for that. That's a mess. That's going to work. So then what we can do is make the button feel like it's living within this piece. I'll show you here. Save as a picture. G1, we'll try it. Okay. Go fit. Okay, this will work. And then what we'll do is move this a little bit. It's a little narrow, but it'll probably work. And this is a cool trick. What you can do with these outlines is round the edges like this. So I'll do like 20. I don't know what I'm going to need. Maybe it's like 10. I'm going to try to round it up like perfectly with the edge of that, which it's close. But then the key is I'm going to add fill to make it like blend with this color. So use Pixie there. Go fill color here. No transparency, but now I can remove the outline and it'll keep my bent edges like that. So now it feels like it's part of a tab. There we go. And then we can copy that and put it like right here and do the other one. And then on this one, I'm going to turn off the fill and then reposition it a little bit here. There we go. So what I want to do at the end of the day is be able to click here and have the button swap to this style format and switch this table out for another one that's very similar, but for a different content. Okay, so now, see how I want to do this. I think, if I remember right, I can go, let's see, on so it's keeping my bent edges. I think I can fill it on hover. So default 100%, on hover 0%. Yeah, I just need to position it a little bit to make it not feel disjointed. And it needs to be the full length there, so I'm going to have to move the text up like that. And then we can make it, if we want to, on hover, go back to middle. So do that effect. And it'll be less obvious because you won't see outlines when you're in the service. Okay. Now, save it real quick. And I'm going to build a new table. So I'm going to copy that one because I want all my formatting. And then I'm going to go to my other table and say I want this one. It's a very shitty model because I wasn't spending time on it. It's very few records or anything. So go there. Find the right one. I might need to look at the data on this one and see what it looks like. Okay. This one's a little bit odd because it's not the same kind of setup. It's like there's items, but there's also like clears that people want to see. So I'm gonna turn off clear and focus on the item. What do they call it in this case? I think it's this one. And we'll switch it up. We'll drill down. And in this case, a lot of people have blank. So we'll do, looks like a relationship issue, but I'm not really, oh, here we go. I need to get rid of that and do that one. Count distinct. There we go. And then I'm going to get rid of the blanks. So I'm going to go here, filters, visual filter, and I'm going to say that, I'll get rid of that one, I'll say this one is not blank. So now if we're in the middle of this event thing and this item shows up, we know who's asked for it in the past. Or if we're trying to plan which one to go to, we can use this to kind of guide that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is two things. I'm going to take a copy of these buttons like that, and then I'm going to essentially swap the formatting. So I'm going to use this one to format paint this one, and I'm going to use this one to format paint this one. And like normally I'd probably use conditional formatting to do some of the button switch stuff, but in this case you can't control transparency with conditional formatting. I wanted to be able to do the transparency. So hide this matrix, bring over my new one, fill the space out a little bit here, like that. Okay, and then we can place our buttons. And actually before I place them, I'm going to name them, because in this case naming them, like normally you name so that somebody else can pick it up and run away with it if they need to, but in this case I need it to be able to kind of manage it. So I'm going to say this one is Dynamis unselected, this one is Omen selected, and then this one is the opposite, so Omen unselected, and this one is Dynamis selected. I spelled it wrong. Okay. Now I'm going to essentially hide these two and put these buttons into place. And you want to be almost exactly on top. Since we have these like borders built in, it makes it really easy to not mess it up. So go down a little bit here. So we get that effect. I think it's placed okay on the left. It's kind of hard to tell because of the outline of the button. Yeah, I think it was alright there. Okay. So now we have our Dynamis set and we have our Omen set that's hidden right now. So I'm going to rename this matrix to Dynamis matrix. Okay, and then we want the other one to be Omen matrix, like that. Okay, now this button, we want to be able to click that and have the Omen matrix come in, and then also the button swap as well. So I'm going to put these in the right positioning to be able to make this easy to do. We'll go Omen first. We'll put this one here, this one here, like that. Okay, and now I'm on Dynamis. I got my Dynamis table, I got my Omen table. I don't think I need a title for this because everybody that's using it will understand it, so it's not really good use of space to bring a title in. So what I can do now is say I want to group. Actually, I'm going to group the matrices, but I'm not going to group the buttons in this case. And I have a reason for that. I just don't know what it is yet, to be honest. There's a reason for it. I've been burnt by it before, I think, if I remember right. So let's go. This is going to be my wants tables. Just call them that. And even though they're grouped, you can still do single, or you can still hide individual elements within it. And it's really not we're not getting a benefit in the bookmarks by doing the group in this case. It's more for organization on this side. So I've got this one, or I've got my buttons. We're on Dynamis. We're going to do through here. So shift click. Oh god. Looks like they have a bug on shift click when it comes to groups, so that's all good. Okay, so we got the buttons. We got the matrices with the swap that's happening in there, and we're going to go add. And we were going to go selected visuals, which is incredibly important. And then in this case, I'm going to do data on. I'll show why in a second, but I want to make sure the depth of this table is preserved, which is where the data comes into play. And then I might also be bringing some slicers into play on the omen piece, so I want to make sure data's turned on in this case. So I'm going to say this one is Dynamis, and then I'm going to swap my buttons. So it's essentially just clicking these 4 in a row to swap it. 3, 4. And then on my tables, just swap them out too. Now we're already set up for the next one, and we can do grab them all, add a new one, selected visuals. I'm going to keep data clicked, and I'm going to rename it to Omen. And now we can go just tie these to the buttons, or to the bookmarks. Bookmark, and that one's Dynamis. Click for Dynamis. And then we click it to test it. It works. Then we do this one, and we say action bookmark omen. Do that. Now we can swap them back and forth like that. And the key in this case is we don't need to see these two tables at the same time. So there's no reason to really display them at the same time. And not only do you benefit by not oversharing too much that doesn't need to be compared to each other, but you also get performance benefits. So if you go like Performance Analyzer, let's say start recording and refresh visuals, you'll see only the Dynamis matrix query ran. So if I were to shrink this down a little bit and click the button, that's when the query runs for the Omen one. So in this case, performance won't matter because it's all like such small data. But if you get into a situation where you're tempted to put 80 visuals on a page, if there's logical breaking points that don't need to be compared to each other, it makes sense to separate them out in this way. Stop that. Okay. I think that's actually going to be a pretty good stopping point for tonight, because I want to do something that's not Power BI today too. So hope you guys liked it, and I will probably be doing this again very soon to continue on this report build. So thank you. Take care.